Okay, so now b6, the queen's Indian defense. Karpov chooses a solid positional setup, preparing to outplay the young challenger in a slow burn strategic battle. And after that, a3, which is known as Petrosian variation. He simply says, "You are not going to win my knight today." And after that, here Karpov strikes with d5. Okay, so here usually the best move for white is to go for e3, supporting the d4 pawn, but this move also blocks the diagonal of this dark square bishop. So that's why here Kamsky goes for a flexible move, bishop to d2, and now anytime this rook can come on c1 square. And after that, c5, attacking the central pawn, and you can see Karpov is just in an attacking mood. Okay, so here Kamsky decides to exchange the knight by knight takes d5, but instead of exchanging the knights, here the best move for white is to go for e4, attacking the knight. And let's suppose if black decides to exchange the knights by knight takes c3, bishop takes c3, c takes d4, and you can see, white can recapture either with the knight or with the bishop. But guys, there is something even crazier than this. I mean, instead of capturing, or we can say defending the bishop, here white can consider this amazing move, rook to d1, completely giving up the bishop. The idea is that after takes, bishop to b5, putting pressure over the knight on d7. So, bishop to c8 is forced, defending on d7, but now comes knight to e5. And you can see now the pressure is extreme on the knight. And let's suppose if black decides to go for bishop to c5 so that he can castle, but knight takes d7, bishop takes d7, rook takes d7, and now black is forced to give up the queen. Bishop takes d7 against a rook and a bishop. Queen takes c3, and in the next move, white is going to push b4, and then he is going to castle, and clearly you can see this is completely winning for white. Okay, so in the actual game, after knight takes d5, and you can see now black has two connected pawns on the c5 and d5 square, and they are going to give black space and control. But guys, they are also basically you can see they are also the permanent targets. And after that, e3, stopping the d pawn from advancement. And after that, bishop to d3, preparing to castle as well as targeting on h7. So to defend this, here Karpov goes for g6. And after this pawn push, here Kamsky goes for h4. He's now going to rip open the king side before Karpov can even castle. Okay, so now Karpov goes for rook to c8 so that he can push his c pawn, and after that queen to a4. And guys, that's a very good move. First of all, it moves the queen out from the range of this rook, and also in the next move he is going to bring this queen on g4 so that he can continue his kingside attack. And after that, finally the queen arrives on g4, and now you can see the pressure on g6 is immense. And now you can see here black can't castle. So to reduce some pressure on the king side, here Karpov goes for bishop to b5. He tries to trade off the bad bishop with the white's good bishop. And as you can see, by moving the bishop to b5, it also opens the path of the rook. And in the next move, black is going to push c4, which is a really good move. So one thing is clear, that exchanging the bishop is not good for white. So that's why after seeing all of this, here Kamsky calmly brings his bishop back to c2. And now you can see the pressure on the pawn is maintained. Okay, so here Kamsky goes for knight to g5. Maybe he wants to go for queen to f3 and then to f7. So what can black do here? And guys, here the best move for black is to go for rook to d8, which is a very important move. Why I am saying this? Because let's suppose if black decides to go for queen to f6, covering the king as much as possible. But guys, there is a problem. First of all, white is now going to push a4, attacking the bishop. And after this, bishop goes, let's suppose, on a6. And now I just want you all to pause the video and try to guess the next move which white can play in this position. In this position, white can go for this amazing move, knight takes f7. Here the best move for black is to ignore the knight and to go for king to e7, because obviously one thing is clear, that he cannot capture the knight with the queen due to the threat of bishop takes g6 fork. And if king takes f7, now queen takes d7 check, queen to e7, queen takes d5 check, queen to e6, bishop takes g6 check, and obviously black can't recapture with the bishop due to this undefended queen. So that's why king to e7 is forced, but takes, bishop takes a5, and you can see white will end up with these three passers on the king side with a completely winning position. Okay, so let me go back. Yep, which is the move. Yeah, so basically now I think you all got the importance of the move rook to d8, because it guards the knight, which is important, because in the variation which I showed you, the knight is undefended. So basically this move defends the knight, which makes this position equal now. Okay, so in the actual game, after this move, here Karpov goes for bishop to f6. He attacks the knight, but guys, that's an inaccuracy, because firstly white goes for a4. He attacks the bishop to c6, king to f1, and guys, that's a good move. He manually moves his king to safety and also opens the even square for the rook. Now he is ready for the central battle. And king to e7. And basically Karpov played a good move. He basically wants to go for rook to h8, so that he can give a check on h1 square. And for white, the best defense is to just slide this king on g1, but Kamsky has some other plans. He pushed a4, and now you can see what's the next move. So now black gives a check. And after that, knight to e5, a fantastic defensive resource. The knight blocks the e4 pawn and attacks the queen. Okay, so now Kamsky gives a check, and it's better to just slide the king, but instead he goes for f6. Yes, he blocks the check, but this also weakens the king position, and also this bishop is now trapped on h8 square. And after that, rook to e1. The rook lines up against the black, and now you can see e5 is coming. And guys, here Kamsky goes for bishop to b1, and guys, that's an inaccuracy, because now black is going to push d3, which traps this light square bishop, because as you can see, this this a2 square is already covered by the queen. Instead, bishop to d1 might be the better option, but Karpov missed the move d3, and he goes for king to d6. And now I just want you all to pause the video and try to find the winning move for white. And if you find the move knight takes f6, then congratulations, you are a genius. The idea is that after knight takes f6, now comes e5 check, attacking the, also attacking the knight. And after king to c7, e takes f6. And now you can see white gets a passer on f-file, and also white is creating multiple threats like rook to e7 check, and anytime this queen can jump also on h7. And you can see this is completely winning for white. But in the actual game, after king to d6, basically in this position, so after king to d6, he made a mistake by e5, and that's a mistake because after takes, f takes e5 check, and now bishop takes e5 might be the best move, but he recaptures with the knight, which gives another chance to white. And here Kamsky instantly pins the knight by bishop to f4. Okay, so after this check, here he goes for king to d6. Okay, so now I just want you all to pause the video again and tell me what will you play as a fight. You can take it as a puzzle. And yes, I know most of you got the move. Yes, you are right, the move is knight takes c5, a discovered check by the queen. The idea is after king takes c5, now comes rook to c1 check. And you can see in the next move, black has to lose his rook. But after king to d6, here Kamsky does this in his way. He firstly gives a check from f4 square, and after this the queen goes to f6. He finally exchanges the queen, and then he gives a check from e6 square with the rook, and after this king moves, simply rook takes f6. And in this position, the final move by Kamsky is rook to a6, and here Anatoly Karpov resigned because as you can see, he's a piece down. And secondly, let's suppose if he tries to promote his passer by a3, then g5. White is also going to push a2, king to f5, and obviously due to this knight, black can't give a check. So king to g7. Rook to a7 check, king to g8, king to g6, king to f8, king to f6, king to g8, rook to a8 check, king to h7, g6 check, king to h6, and finally g7. And you can see now no one can stop this pawn from promotion. What an amazing game by Gata Kamsky. Like this video and I will see you in the next one. This is your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.